My name's Danayutta, and I've been asked to talk about how to deal with difficult people. And I must say, I am a little embarrassed by this title. Partly, I wondered if it seemed to indicate that I've got lots of difficult people in my life, and therefore I am an expert on how to deal with them. So I just want to say, to reassure everyone and to reassure myself, that I do have lots of nice and friendly people in my life. And like all people, I occasionally find some people in my life difficult, or occasionally I fall out with a friend. But I am interested in this topic as well because I think for all of us, no matter what we say we want in our lives, whether it's fame or money or love, all of us actually deep down inside, we mainly long for connection. We mainly long for intimacy. And being angry with somebody, being irritated with somebody, or even feeling a kind of jerk of aversion towards somebody is antithetical to that longing. So I am really interested in this area, and I think all of us could be more loving, and we could hurt other people less. So tonight, what I'd like to do is to talk a bit about how to work with irritation and anger and ill will and hatred, both in meditation as well as outside of meditation, off the cushion practice, as it were. And if you want to transform any negative mental state, any unskillful mental state, there's a really helpful Buddhist list, Buddhist framework called the Four Right Efforts. So traditionally, the four right efforts are preventing the arising of unskillful mental states, eradicating already arisen unskillful mental states, cultivating the arising of skillful mental states, and maintaining already arisen skillful mental states. So that means to say preventing, eradicating, cultivating, and maintaining. So I'll just go through each of them in turn. And in the case of preventing the arising of unskillful mental states, what it means in this case is trying not to get angry with people in the first place. And in the tradition, it's talked about as cultivating a vigilant sort of mindfulness. You know what would get you irritated, and you act with awareness to prevent that from happening. One of the very, very simple things that I notice is that I get hangry. Do people know this word? Do other people get it? Basically, if I'm hungry, I get into a state where I'm easily irritable. So I try not to schedule Zoom meetings or phone dates for 1 p.m. because that's my lunchtime. And even if it's with people who I like and who I love, I know I'm just more likely to get impatient if what I want to do is just to get off the phone and get something to eat. So it's the same for doing really, really simple, basic things like getting enough sleep, making sure you're exercising, doing all those things that you need to maintain a positive frame of mind. Preventing unskillful mental states from arising is also talked about in terms of guarding the gates of the senses. So one of the things that people are probably doing more of right now is watching more TV or streaming, watching more stuff on streaming services. And I think it's really, really important, if you can, to curate your input. What values are you cultivating by what you watch? So I know those of you who are practicing meditation with me in the morning, you'll know that I really like watching RuPaul's Drag Race because I think it embodies a lot of positive values. It's often about creativity or transformation and growth. And sometimes the contestants can also be quite mean to each other or say things behind other people's backs in a gossipy or slanderous way. And if I don't pay attention, I start to sort of think that that kind of talking behind other people's back, that kind of slanderous speech, is okay at some level. And when I'm really, really watching too much of it, I sometimes, and this is a little bit embarrassing, maybe, I find myself imitating that kind of behavior. So it's just really, really not good. So guard the gates of your mind and curate your input. Yeah. So the second right effort is eradicating any already arisen unskillful mental states. And that basically means if you are already angry with somebody, try your best to stop. Yeah. So once I was at a Buddhist class in the audience, and I was sitting here, just over there actually, in the shrine room, and it was an event for young people, and the topic was working with resentment and cultivating forgiveness. And I was paired with a young Korean boy in a little discussion group. And when we were talking about being angry with people, he said, "My mother always told me that if someone does something bad to you once, you don't have to do it again to yourself 100 more times in your head." And that struck me as very wise because actually that's often what we do. We deepen our hurts and we deepen our resentments by going over and over and over it in our heads, or sometimes even with our partner or our friends, which is probably worse because it's not only boring, we're also infecting other people with our bad mood. Yeah. So in meditation, I often start my meditation with this visualization of blue sky. Yeah. And on occasions when I found myself very angry or very upset, sitting in the blue sky can feel like I'm actually tied up with a kind of string around my body. And the string around my body feels quite like it's pulling tight. The more I rehearse my arguments, my reasons, my sort of justifications for being angry, the tighter the string around my body gets. And I think the string stands for stories I tell myself, and these stories keep me from being free, from feeling freedom, even as I sit in the vast expanse of the blue sky. So in my meditation, what I do is I just imagine snipping and cutting that string that ties me up, momentarily even letting go of my stories, my resentment, my rationalizations for the injustice that's been done to me or whatever it is that's upsetting me. And when I'm able to do that, when I'm able to just snip those strings, I do feel relief and release. And then I'm often back with a more simple, more basic experience of hurt or confusion or sadness that's very, very sort of human. Those are human emotions, and that's infinitely connecting and oddly empowering as well. Yeah. So that's the second one. Now, the third right effort is cultivating the arising of skillful mental states. So this would mean, in the context of working with difficult people, very simply just practicing the Metta Bhavana meditation, the loving kindness practice. So the word bhavana in Metta Bhavana literally means making to become, yeah? Making to become, bringing to life. It's a development practice. It's a cultivation practice. And what metta is an attitude of loving kindness, a stance of open receptivity towards all beings. And in a moment, what we'll do is we'll be exploring that practice, particularly in relation to difficult people. So maybe it would be quite helpful just to say right now that if you're new to loving kindness practice, you might not want to do the practice with someone who's really causing you harm or who's really evil. Yeah. So don't do the loving kindness practice if you've got such on that particular person. If you've got such a person in your life, if you're new. At the same time, metta is a universal practice, and it works on all beings and for all beings, all our relationships, regardless whether they're easy or they're difficult. So eventually, you will have to work on all of your relationships, even the most difficult ones. But you might not want to do that at the start. In this practice, when I bring difficult people to mind, I often start that particular stage of the meditation by just recalling that however difficult someone is, they too, just like me, are a human being, yeah, with joys and sorrows. They too have people who love them and people who care for them. They too have people who depend on them. And they depend on other people. So I will talk about the practice. I'll talk you through the practice in full when we get to it. But right now, I just want to finish off our little Buddhist list by talking about the fourth right effort, which is maintaining already arisen skillful mental states. And that could mean acting on the practice of metta and cultivating a deeper connection in real life. One of the things I find hardest to communicate teaching here at the London Buddhist Center is that actually for all of us, most of our practice will actually happen off the cushion. So it's no good sitting here. It's no good me sitting here, just thinking nice thoughts, loving thoughts even about other people without acting on it. So without going on to act on it. So it's not actually enough just to resolve the difficulty in your head or in your heart even. But what we need to do is to really maintain that harmony. To do that, we might need to apologize. We might need to find a way to deepen our communication or our understanding with the other person, or to act in other ways that are appropriate. Okay, so there you have it, my little short list on how to deal with difficult people. Number one, try not to get angry with people. Number two, if you're already in a difficulty, if you're already angry and upset, try your best to drop the story about why that's the case and come back to a more simple experience. And probably will be an experience of hurt or unhappiness or confusion. And you can stay with that, and that will be connecting. The third thing to do is just to practice the metta bhavana, really put these difficult people into your metta bhavana practice. And then the fourth thing is to act, and act with love, and act for the sake of other people. Yeah. So it's not just about you, this practice, it's really for the sake of other people. Okay. That's probably enough for now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to meditate, and I'll lead us through a 4-stage metta bhavana practice where we're developing loving kindness for ourselves. We're developing loving kindness for a good friend. We'll skip the neutral person stage tonight, and we will develop loving kindness. We'll develop metta for a difficult person. And then in the final stage, we'll develop metta for all beings. Okay, so do see if you can get yourselves into meditation posture. If you don't know what that is, don't worry. See if you can sit upright in a chair. Maybe a hard kitchen chair is quite good for meditating in. And if you are sitting in a chair or on your sofa, see if you can try to sit upright, so away from the back of the chair. One of the things that can happen if you aren't able to sit upright, if you sort of like sit a bit slumped over, is that your chest tends to close, and somehow this closed-off position doesn't quite work for developing an open heart. So you want to sit upright so that your chest feels open already, even before you start the meditation practice. Okay. So closing your eyes when you're ready. I will still keep talking. So if you don't know the Metta Bhavana practice, don't worry. I'll guide us through it. So settling into your body. And you might want to start by listening to sounds. Listening out for any sounds outside of the room. So traffic sounds, wind sounds, bird sounds, neighbors. And then listening to sounds inside the room. So maybe the whirring of your computer or your fridge. And then see if you can also be quiet enough to listen to the sounds inside of your body. So any digestion noises. Maybe you're even quiet enough to hear the thumping of your heart. And then see if you can feel into the whole of the body and making any small adjustments to your posture. Perhaps relaxing your shoulders or allowing your sit bones to sit a bit more on your cushions or your chair. See if your spine can be long. And see if you can feel into your heart area. Doesn't mean the physical heart, more like the center of your chest. And sometimes it's helpful to start the metta bhavana by smiling in your heart. So cultivating metta for yourself, a sense of loving kindness, perhaps saying to yourselves, may I be well. May I be happy. May I be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May I make progress. So, seeing if you can have a sense of metta for yourself. Encouraging the sense to grow. Now, moving on into the second stage, where we bring to mind a good friend. You might want to imagine your good friend sitting quite close to you. Don't worry if you can't see them in your mind's eye. Just have a sense of their presence. Notice if their presence already has an opening, softening effect in your heart and your body. Now see if you can wish your friend well. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. And may you make progress. Now let's move on to bringing a difficult person to mind. As you bring them to mind, just notice what happens in the body. Maybe your throat goes tight or your heart closes. Did you do a little eye roll? If any tensions crept into the body, see if you can relax again. Or cultivating a stance of openness. Bringing the difficult person to mind. Then you might want to reflect that just like you, they have hopes and dreams, sorrows and disappointments. Just like you, they fall sick, they lose things and people. And just like you, they have successes and happinesses. So see if you can imagine wishing them well. May you be well and happy. Imagine saying to the difficult person, may you be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And may you make progress. Now see if you can bring yourself, the good friend, and the difficult person, all three of you, to mind. And see if you can imagine, just for a moment, cherishing the difficult person as much as you would your good friend, even yourself. And feeling as interested in your good friend as you are in yourself. We're all made of the same stuff, really. And then starting to broaden out the sense of metta to include all the people in your life. An infinite, boundless heart for all beings. And you might want to especially imagine each other. Harvey in Deptford, Nina in New York, Elizabeth all the way in Mexico. All of us sitting here cultivating metta for each other and for all beings. Now let's start to draw the meditation to a close. Just bring yourself back onto your sit bones, back into the smile in your heart. Yeah, so do open your eyes if you haven't already. So if you are watching live, what you can do is just to ask any questions you had on the meditation or the material that I presented earlier in the session. So you can sort of put your questions in the chat box, and we'll try to respond to those questions. I must say I've been teaching meditation in the mornings, and I've actually found the questions to be the most stimulating part of the class. I just find it very, very interesting what people are want to know. Yeah. Yeah.
So I've got a question from Emma. Just going to quickly read it. So how do I deal with hurtful, embarrassing stories if I struggle with visualization? I often replay hurtful things over and over in my mind, but struggle to see any kind of stream.
Yeah. Yeah. So the question is, how does one deal with hurtful memories? If one seems to see sort of remember in visual terms. Yeah. I think that's a really, really interesting question. Often, well, two things actually. I feel like I get a lot of memories as well, and often what I do is memories that are hurtful and embarrassing. I just almost like try to like squish them down almost immediately. So that is what happens to me. Like I remember something, I just feel embarrassed and upset, and I like, immediately squish it down, and then they just come back. They just like come back really, really quickly when I'm meditating, when I'm walking down the street. So that happens to me too. And one of the things I find really helpful often is to work out whether I've been unskillful in that situation. Um, so you may or may not have been. So I'm just talking about memories in general now. Sometimes I remember things that make me feel embarrassed, but actually they're not unskillful. So maybe like I've just gone to a party and I've been underdressed, and then those memories will come up. So it's quite helpful just to work out whether or not one has been unskillful or not. And then if it's like not unskillful, then you can just sort of like say it's not unskillful and just drop it. If it's a memory of someone causing you hurt, I think that Korean boy's mother's advice is really, really good. Don't hurt yourself again by giving that memory energy. Yeah, just don't do it. Don't do it. At the same time, sometimes what can also be helpful just to like completely eradicate those memories once and for all is just to like go deeper into it. And often, well, what I do is I talk to a trusted friend. Not a friend who will collude with me, not the kind of friend who will probably like sort of put their arm around my shoulder and say, there, but a friend who might sort of tell me the truth and someone who I really, really trust. Now, some of you practice here at the London Buddhist Center, and my friend Mahamani, who teaches here usually on Tuesday evenings, is the sort of woman I would go to, a wise woman, and a woman who would just tell it to me straight. And I know that she will have my best interests at heart and all beings' best interests at heart. It's a good question, though. I'm sure it's a question that other people can relate to.
There's some more questions coming in about the difficult person, actually. So a couple about putting one saying they put themselves in the difficult person stage. Is that good or bad for their development? Another one saying they find it difficult to generate metta for themselves, much more easy towards a friend. So and there's another one, but maybe start with those two.
Okay. So the first question is somebody's asking, is it okay to put yourself in the difficult person stage? I know sometimes people recommend that, putting yourselves in all the stages. I would tend not to recommend that as a general rule. And I think particularly not the difficult person stage. If you want to spend more time cultivating metta for yourself, that's fine. You can just spend more time in the first stage. But really, what this practice is a practice of generating love, and actually it's almost like you don't need to like continue to see the difficult person as a difficult person. um, yeah, so you can actually do that in the first stage already. The practice is also very, very much about other people, and that's why you actually want to have other people in the difficult person stage. um, yeah, so in a way, at that stage, it stops really being about you, in a certain sort of way. It's an outward moving practice. So that was the first question. Thank you for that. And then the second one was about what was it again, Yanadaya?
It was
Um,
saying that they find it hard
oh,
to develop metta for themselves and
yeah.
initiate it towards a friend.
Yeah, so somebody finds it hard to develop metta for themselves and much easier to develop metta for a friend. Yeah, I think we will go through periods where that sort of feels the case, that we find it hard to develop metta for ourselves. One of the things I find it quite useful to reflect on, and maybe just do this outside of meditation rather than spend time in meditation thinking about this, is to reflect that actually you know yourself best. Yeah. And all the time, all your time, your whole life, you are spending time with yourself. Um, yeah. Somehow I find that reflection quite moving in a way, um, and that might generate a sense of metta. The other thing, maybe to say, is that you know metta may or may not manifest as an emotion. I think my teacher Bhante Sangharakshita says that metta is a response of care, and concern. Yeah. I, in my own practice, seem to feel metta as an attitude. So it's not as if that I feel sort of like all, I don't know, rainbows and unicorns about myself, or all sort of like really sort of mushy and open hearted about myself. But it's more of trying to cultivate an attitude, a kind of sort of a stance, in one's life of openness to oneself. Yeah, so it's not all about like generating a particular feeling. I think I'm staying stance a lot because Nyanadaya is here in the room and he teaches Qigong, and Qigong is all about stances.
Okay, quite a few more questions.
Yeah.
Somebody talked about if when you're focused on a difficult person, you become very emotional. Is it worth still continuing with the practice? Or the meditation,
yeah. Yeah. I think it is worth it. I guess, it's really, really hard to say without going into the details of it. Um, I think it's definitely worth it. And you might want to do a few things like spend a little bit longer in the first stage, really, really resourcing yourself. And then sometimes, I didn't quite say this in the meditation, but often in the preceding stages, when I bring to mind a good friend, often when I start that fourth stage where I bring to mind a difficult person, I sort of keep the good friend quite close. And it's almost like they're doing the metta bhavana with me. So I'm not really quite alone faced with a difficult person. I sort of imagine my good friend sort of giving me um, the strength and the sort of power, I guess, behind the metta. So that's one thing that you might want to try. And then the other thing I think is to not to well, to feel the emotions in the body if you can, sort of, really sort of feel the tightness of your heart and see if you can do something about that. Feel the tears really be rolling down your face, and that's okay. Really feel the emotion, but also move on. See if you can move on to the bhavana aspect of the practice. So it's not just about like being in the presence of the difficult person and feeling really uncomfortable. I think there is something quite powerful about wishing somebody to be well and to be free, wishing somebody who you find really difficult to make progress. I think there's something in that. Like, don't spend too much time with the emotions. Really feel them, and then move on to the bhavana stage if you can.
Okay, we've got a few more questions still. Questions about feelings of righteous indignation. So quite a few questions around the topic of how do I deal with righteous indignation, stories that keep repeating themselves, or being angry, knowing you're angry, but not wanting to get out of the anger. So I'm just saying, like, outside of meditation, I find it much, much harder not to get angry. And then maybe it's on the similar sort of thing.
Okay. So the question is about righteous indignation and what to do when you don't want to stop being angry. I think I'm just laughing because, like, I feel like I know righteous indignation quite well, actually. Having said that, like, I don't quite believe I'm an expert in dealing with difficult people. I think righteous indignation is a really, really interesting one because I think why it's so compelling is that there's often an element of pleasure in the righteousness. Yeah. So we enjoy being right. We enjoy being right because it builds up a sense of self. With our views, we sort of like make an armor, make a solid thing of our identity. I'm right, and they over there are wrong. Yeah, and that can feel sort of very, very pleasurable. So maybe as a start, what you might want to do is just to really see if you can see the obstacle of the righteous indignation because it's so pleasurable. You need to actually first see that actually it's a limiting state and actually feel the pain of that limiting state. Very, very hard to let go of things that actually give you pleasure and actually give you a sense of self. It's much easier when you can see that actually with your righteous indignation, you're actually causing harm. You're causing harm to yourself and you're causing harm to other people. You need to sort of like find a motivation to let go of your righteousness. Actually, I was once here at the London Buddhist Center, and so it's been in a bit of like a righteously indignant mood, and Nanda Raja, this very, very lovely man, also a teacher here at the London Buddhist Center, was sitting on reception. And I think he's really, really good at working with this kind of mental state. And I was telling him about my situation. And Nanda Raja just looked at me and he said, "Would you rather be right or be free?" And I just felt dead embarrassed, like, well, yeah, like I like being right, but actually I would much prefer to be free. So yeah, I think there's something about finding a good motivation. It's very, very hard if you actually want to keep hold of your anger. Good question.
Okay, we've got some more questions. Question about pets, whether it's okay to put pets in stages of the metabolic ill pets who died, pets in general, I guess.
Yeah. It's a very, very interesting question. So the question is, can you put pets in metabhavana, pets that might have died, ill pets? Yes, I think you can definitely put pets in the metabhavana. And yeah, you can put pets in different stages. The first, second, third. I think for me, generally, they kind of live in the fifth stage with all beings. So, and in the fifth stage, when we say all beings in the Buddhist cosmology, you wouldn't just include human beings. Actually, you'd include all sorts of animals, all sorts of devas, spirits. Yeah, like they may be human or they may not. Maybe there's also a question of like whether you can put pets in the sort of the first few stages. I think often people ask about dogs in the first stage, the second stage, the good friend stage. Um, I think that's okay, and also see if you can sometimes put a human being as well. Yeah.
Good, okay. So we've got some questions about the difficult person stage again, understandably. And it's around, well, a couple. One is wishing somebody well in the difficult person stage, wishing them well, but at the same time, not wanting to open up, I guess, to open up the boundaries. So
Yeah.
wishing them well, but still wanting to kind of keep boundaries. And then another question about, from India actually, saying that trying to develop positive feelings for a difficult person, but then sort of memories coming in, like events sort of just coming in and make it difficult.
Yeah, yeah. So the question is, can you wish somebody well and still keep your boundaries? I think sometimes that is wise. It's not as if I think particularly with people who might have harmed you or are causing you harm, it might actually be quite wise to keep the boundary while still being able to feel open towards them, have a sense of their humanity as well. So I think it really, really depends on the situation. But yeah, I think when we say having a boundless heart, it's slightly different from the sort of modern understanding of psychological boundaries. I would say they're slightly different things. So I think we're going to have to wrap up. Isn't that right? Yeah. Okay, we're going to have to wrap up now. I'm really, really sorry that I couldn't get through all the questions. They were very, very good questions, very stimulating, as I was saying. Yeah, so if you do, have questions that have been unanswered, you might want to send them to stayingconnected@lbc.org.uk, and somebody will get back to you. And then the other thing I just want to also encourage all of you to do is to see if you can sign up for the retreat next week. So if you're on the LBC online mailing list, you'll have received an email with details about a retreat that we're running next week, starting this Sunday. I just want to encourage you to do that retreat. One of the great things about the lockdown is that we've got some of the best teachers here at the London Buddhist Center doing a lot of teaching. So people who I regard as my teachers, like Maitra Bandhu and Subhadramati, leading these retreats. A lot of sort of very good teaching and access to good teachers. So do sign up for that retreat if you can. And then the last thing I want to say is just to say thank you to all of you who are giving to us in this time. And also, if you don't already give to the London Buddhist Center, I just really want to encourage you to do that. I think partly what can happen when you sort of give to a place like the London Buddhist Center is it's not just that we can do more and give more to the world, but also I think that you then get a sense of investment in our community and you feel part of things. Yeah, so I just really want to encourage you to do that or already if you do that if you don't, and thank you if you do. And the details are on the chat and also in the description. Okay. So thank you everyone for joining us, and maybe see you again soon. And bye from me. Bye. Bye.